welcome to another episode of Loud and Opinionated. I am one of your hosts, as always, Jake Williams, alongside Derek Watson. And we're doing something different today, Derek. We're changing it up. We're going to go back in time to 2016 when we did a sports podcast way back when, and a show that I am very proud of. Not a lot of people listen to it, but I'm proud of it still. We're going to do nothing but football today. So, sports fans, this is the show for you. If you're not interested in sports, I'm sorry. But this is kind of like our test run because we're going to try and do resurrect the Audible for the football season. It'll be something we'll do separately on our website. So, sports fans, you got your own little podcast if you want.
Start that week one.
Week one of college football season. We'll start right there. So I'm assuming we'll try and get it up at the beginning of the week, but we'll see.
Probably Wednesdays because we'll want to watch Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday.
We'll figure it out when the season comes.
Either way, the Audible's back, and that's exciting.
That is very exciting. Derek and I talked about how much we missed. Well, the whole reason we're doing this show is because of that show. We missed podcasting together. But, man, I missed having conversations about football with someone like Derek because most of my friends watch it, but they're not really in-depth and nerdy about it like we are. So it's just nice to have that back. And without further ado, instead of the Watson report, we're continuing with the football theme. The 2-minute drill with Derek Watson.
Antonio Brown is on the Madden cover. Will the Madden curse strike Brown? Last year was Tom Brady. Obviously, he had a pretty good season overall, but we all saw how that ended. Before that, Gronk was plagued with injuries. The year before that was Odell Beckham Jr. Curse didn't really hit them really since Adrian Peterson. It hasn't been, the curse that it used to be. But what do you think? Is it going to hit Brown this year?
No, because nobody can cover him.
He's just too damn fast.
No, I don't think it'll happen. I think Brady finally broke the curse. I'm a firm believer in that there's no such thing as a Madden curse, but there is such a thing as one-season wonders. And I think a lot of times in these later games, you kind of seen, not necessarily all of them, but some of them were definitely, like they had Peyton Hillis on a cover one year.
Yeah, that was back in 2012. But Adrian Peterson, you can't argue that the curse didn't hit him pretty damn hard.
No, I got him. And even Gronk, because Gronk can't seem to stay healthy a whole season. Gronk was on the cover before Brady, and he got hurt too. But I think Antonio Brown will be fine. He's like I said, he's just too fast. Nobody can tackle him.
I have to say, I really like the picture that they chose for it. It totally encapsulates Antonio Brown's personality. Yeah. As much as I hate the Steelers and hate how good he is and how you can just give him the ball every single play, I think he is kind of a funny guy.
He is.
All right, next story. NFL Hall of Fame won't mention Terrell Owens in the gold jacket ceremony that he is not attending because he's mad at them for keeping him out for so long. Is it petty by the NFL Hall of Fame or is it petty by Terrell Owens not to show up? Who's in the wrong here?
I want to start by saying I think both are being kind of childish and petty about it.
Yeah, but don't we expect that from T.O.?
Yeah, I mean,
you expect the Hall of Fame to be better than that, in my opinion.
I do too. I was just about to say that I kind of side with T.O. in this because it's however he feels about them and how he feels that he should have been in sooner or the whole beef that they've had.
He should have been in sooner. We talked about that in the Audible.
Oh yeah, I agree with it, but I'm just I'm saying like this whole thing shouldn't exist, this whole like beef that they have. And I think it's shame on both of them. I both think it's petty and silly, but I agree with you that it's worse that the Hall of Fame committee does this because on one hand, I can see where they're coming from, where it's like this is the biggest honor you can get in professional football. But on the other side of it, shouldn't you also just grow up and not deal with it? You know, say his name. It's 2 seconds. Like,
yeah, I know. It's not like they have to do a whole thing for it. The fact that they're not even going to mention him, I think it's just kind of childish. And I think that you expect more from an organization like the Hall of Fame than to get involved in something like that. I do think T.O. had some pretty legitimate concerns about why he wasn't allowed into the Hall of Fame sooner. But in the end, he earned the right to be in the Hall of Fame. He should earn the right to be respected in the ceremony. Moving on, NFL rule changes. This is a story from back in March when the new rules came out for the NFL, but we didn't have a podcast back then, so we're going to talk about it now. They finally fixed the catch rule. They took out the survive the ground, finish the process wording so that we don't get any more of these ridiculous calls that completely change the outcomes of games and, in certain cases, seasons. There's no more unnecessary PATs at the end of regulation, like what happened with the Vikings there in the playoffs against the Saints. And that was just a complete sideshow. So I think that was a good call. And a 15-yard penalty has been added for a helmet-to-helmet contact if you lead with the helmet, kind of like targeting in college football, except for it's just a 15-yard penalty. And then they also now not the broadcasters, the officials outside of the booth and the replay will have the ability to eject players from games, which is new. So the thing I'm most excited about is the new catch rule. They finally fixed that because that was destroying a very specific part of the NFL. What are your thoughts?
I think it's only a matter of time, especially after last season, how bad it was getting with the catch rules and the backlash, especially from Pittsburgh. I don't care what anybody says. That was a touchdown.
I see how according to the rules it wasn't, but the rule was wrong.
Totally. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you look,
they put the refs in a terrible spot. Like you felt bad for the officials because they're just trying to call based off of these rules, and everybody hates them. But they're not the ones who made the rules. They're just enforcing them.
No, and I think that's the problem. A lot of those plays are so quick and so game changing. It's hard to get it right, even with replay. So I'm glad that they kind of fixed that and they took care of that because I feel like, yeah, you're right. A lot of game-changing, season-ending moments because of a silly rule. The other one that gets me is the sideline refs. So you said? Did you say cameras, or did you say like?
What are you saying?
Are you saying line judges can eject players now?
No. Like officials, like the officials in New York that are doing video review.
Okay. That.
They didn't have the ability to do that before, so now basically they're going to be able to go back and if there's a really egregious play, go back and review and eject someone, like they can do in college football right now.
I like that. I think that's always a good thing.
They also cemented the 25-yard touchback rule that was in like a test phase, and now it's official, so that's going to stay. And I don't have much of a problem with that. I don't think it changed the percentage of touchbacks by like 1.2%. So really not that big of a difference, but whatever. I don't think it really hurts the game.
And I understand that everybody talks about, football is a game of inches and, 5 yards would make a difference. It doesn't seem like it's been making a difference in college football, and they've had that since 2012. And it really hasn't changed the game much at all. So
at least not noticeably. Their goal was to avoid unnecessary big hits on kickoff returns, and they reduced that by 1% maybe. I am glad that they added the targeting penalty because it's with the focus on CTE and player health concerns. The fact that this wasn't already a rule is kind of crazy to me. How do you think college football still needs to work on their targeting rule?
Yeah, for sure. It's their version of complete the process. But, Yeah, that's something that's baffling me. How is the college game figuring this stuff out before the NFL?
Well, I think this is usually how it goes. Is college, they test it out in college football, and then if it seems like a good rule and that it's working well, then they'll move it up to pro.
I suppose.
On certain things.
Yeah.
All right, and one piece of college football. On ESPN's Way Too Early Top 25, they moved Clemson up above Alabama. Are the Tigers the team to beat in the NCAA?
I mean, there's a reason why it's called Way Too Early.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not buying into the Clemson hype this year. I mean,
really?
I'm kidding. They're no, actually, you know what? I'm not. We'll get to that later about my opinions on Clemson. I don't buy on the hype to them because this team, I think I don't disagree that they're a good team.
They're so good.
No, yeah, there's no questioning that. But I do think
they like the best defense, and they're all coming back. Minus one linebacker.
My point is they've done what they needed to. They got over the Clemsoning hump a few years ago.
They allowed 5 rushing touchdowns last year. 5.
Again.
And 6 of their front 7 are returning.
Granted, they beat Miami and in a good fashion because of all the turnovers. They took it to Miami in the ACC championship game. But when they played Alabama, what happened to that defense? Alabama scored 31 points, and Alabama's offense isn't that great.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Alabama here.
So, exactly, I understand
There's a
that.
reason why they have so many national championships. We're talking about the other best team. I'm talking about
but I'm talking
1 and 2. If you wanna switch those 1 and 2, I understand, but Clemson belongs up there.
I'm not saying
right under Nebraska.
I'm not saying that they don't belong in the top 5. I'm just saying I still think Bama is the number 1 team.
Yeah, I think it's kind of insulting to when you move the national championship winning team away from the first place ranking. I think that they earn that until the season starts, in my opinion. Unless their team is just completely changing, but for Alabama, it really doesn't matter that much because they're always there, and they have potentially the greatest coach in college football history.
I don't think there's a question after last year.
Yeah.
I don't like the guy, but
with that being said, that's our 2-minute report and break down quickly the show. What we're going to do today, we're going to start with our college football preview, talk about conference championships, how we think the season's going to go, and we're each going to pick a dark horse team. Then we'll do our NFL preview. Get excited about who we think the MVP is going to be, rookies to watch, teams we're excited for. We'll predict the Super Bowl, and then we're going to end it with our Husker Homer section, and this is how we'll probably do every Audible episode going forward. So all you Husker fans, stick around for the end, and we got some special stuff just for you. And it was a very, very exciting time for Husker Nation.
Man, but well, we'll get to that. I was going to say something, but I'll save it. So let's start first with college football, and we're going to pick our Power 5 champions. These are the teams that we think are going to win their conference. Let's start first with the conference that we know better than all the other ones because Nebraska plays in it. Let's start with the Big Ten. Derek, who do you got winning the Big Ten?
Nebraska. No, I'm just kidding. It's kind of tough for me. I don't want to sound like too much of a homer because I'm wearing a brown shirt right now. I was born and raised a Buckeye, but I'm gonna have to stick with Ohio State with this one. They're just so loaded with talent. I think it's gonna come down to them in Wisconsin, and I hope we get a really good game out of it. But I'm gonna go with Ohio State this year, as long as depending on the quarterback situation, I'd like to see Tate Martell. Is he a freshman this year? Freshman or sophomore?
Yeah, I think he's a freshman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a freshman. Very, very highly touted recruit. Visited Nebraska, but obviously chose Ohio State. But yeah, so I'm going with Ohio State. Wisconsin out of the West. Unless Nebraska has a surprising and amazing season.
Yeah,
next year though.
I totally agree. I think Ohio State and Wisconsin are without a doubt the two best teams in the conference. If Penn State still had Saquon Barkley, I might put the full threat to Ohio State in the Big Ten East.
Yeah. I think the problem with Penn State is that they're going to have to rely too much on Trace McSorley, who I think is good and can definitely has the potential to put together a Heisman run. But I just personally don't believe that he's going to be able to handle it all on his own without Trace McSorley or without Saquon Barkley behind him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was one of the best security blankets you could ever have, and I think their offense is good. It's going to be interesting to see what James Franklin has to do with that team. But yeah, Ohio State, it's every year with this team. Urban Meyer, if you would rank best modern coaches, it's Nick Saban and then Urban Meyer.
Yeah, for sure.
And we even saw that last season, and we saw it 4 years. It'll be 4 years this year. 4 years ago, with that team, he loses a quarterback. He just reestablishes one. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And they won a national championship with a third string quarterback.
Yeah, and what was it? His third start? Yeah. He won the Big Ten championship. He won the first ever college football playoff game, and then he won the national championship in 3 starts.
And you saw that a little bit last year when Ohio State played Michigan. Their quarterback, I can't think of his name. It's slipping my mind.
JT Barrett?
Well, his backup, the guy that came in and played for that game when JT Barrett. I think it was like Maskin, something like that.
Yeah,
point
is his first name. It's Maskin, though.
Point is, that guy came in not having a lot of playing time. I mean, he played in their blowout wins, not having a lot of playing time, and beat Michigan and played like he had full command of that offense. So I think he's the starter, and I think Ohio State. I'll tell you right now.
You think this is Harbaugh's last chance? You think he's on the hot seat?
I'm sorry. If you're Michigan, he's still even not getting to that next level and beating Ohio State. He's still keeping your school very relevant for the right reasons.
Is he their Bo Pelini though?
At the time, right now, yes. I mean, you can't argue with back-to-back 10-win seasons. I mean, last season was kind of a letdown for them. They went 8-5, and he just hasn't been able.
Bo never even did that. I think this could be. I mean, I think Michigan fans they're not okay with that. They've got a very rich history of winning, and if you can't beat Ohio State for this many years, I think he is on the hot seat. And I also not too confident in them this year, but we'll see. I think Michigan State could be a surprise team. You never know with them.
I think, and I think the only two legitimate teams that are threats to Ohio State are Penn State and Michigan State. Because say what you will about the last few seasons
in the East, yeah.
Whatever the last 2 seasons were, Mark D'Antonio has still been able to have a bad season a year before and turn it around the next season. He's always found ways to do that.
He reminds me of a Popovich kind of guy, like just quiet, hardworking, like just focused on the team, not a lot of drama for the most part. Popovich sometimes can be a little outspoken, but for the most part, and he's gonna keep his team good. He might have a slip every few years, but every now and then they're gonna have a chance to go all the way. I can see it, but yeah, I'm picking Ohio State. We should probably move on to the next conference.
Well, I'm just saying that Wisconsin's also there's nobody that it's Wisconsin and then every other team in the West. For now, yes, it's a rebuilding year. But yes, we both have Ohio State winning the Big Ten. All right, so the other big conference, the Big 12, which still just the Big Ten, but whatever. This one, I'm going to be obvious, and I think you're probably going to have the same pick. It's Oklahoma. I think they're going to be the Big 12 champion again.
Nope.
Oh.
And this is giving away my dark horse team.
Okay.
Going with Iowa State.
That's really funny because Iowa State's my dark horse team too.
So how could you not pick them to win the Big 12?
I think they'll be
I'm
competitive.
confident in my dark horse team. I don't think they're even a dark horse. I just think they're a team that's not getting enough attention. I mean, look at the way that they played last year. Let's see. I had their schedule open.
They
lost by a field goal to Iowa, which decent Big Ten team. That was early in the season, though. A field goal. They did lose to Texas. Not a great win, or not a great loss, but 10 points. They beat Oklahoma, which we should have gone to that game. And then they lose to West Virginia, a really good team, who this year they have at home. And then they lose to a ranked Oklahoma State team by 1 touchdown. And then they lose by 1 point to Kansas State, which I think was their worst loss of the season. They did beat a ranked Memphis 21-20. So, I mean, if they just get over – it sounds like a bad year for them. But in the Big 12, I think if they can just take one small step forward, I think they'll be right there in the championship. I think they'll take down Oklahoma and be my dark horse team to make it to the college football playoff or be the first out.
I think that they will be competitive, but you also have to keep in mind a lot of those players that won all those games last year were seniors. It was a veteran team. I'm not going to take away from what Matt Campbell did. What Matt Campbell was able to do with the talent that he inherited in his second season, be that competitive in the Big 12, I think is phenomenal.
Right. And that's kind of, I'm putting my faith in him more than the players themselves. In 2 seasons, he's able to have a season like that. I just think that he'll have a chance to step it up. The big game for him is going to be playing at Oklahoma. But if he keeps that game close, he's got Iowa at home. He's got TCU at home. Oklahoma. No. Sorry, I had that backwards. Oklahoma. Oh, you're right. I had it backwards. Right, they do have Oklahoma. I was looking at these completely backwards. Which maybe they beat them 2 years in a row then, but they do have to play at Iowa and at TCU. I totally did my take backwards there. But the rest of their away games, I think, are pretty winnable. They're playing at Kansas. They're playing at Texas, who I don't have any faith in.
Neither do I.
And I think that they could take it to Oklahoma State. So, I mean, we'll see how it all turns out, but I'm not confident. I'm never confident in the Big 12 anyways. I think the Oklahoma is consistently overrated, and I think that Iowa State's going to take it this year.
Oklahoma was a bad play call away from beating Georgia.
And they also don't have their quarterback anymore.
It's true, but I think Lincoln Riley is a really fun young coach. I think he's shown to me that he can win. I understand that it was all Bob Crute's players that he had there, but it's also he's been in this program a few years and he's been recruiting players for that offense. And I think that offense is so fun and fast. And I don't think that you can replace Baker Mayfield, but I think they have enough talent that they can work around it. And so I think Oklahoma, and maybe I'm one of those people that thinks they're overrated, but I have them winning the Big 12, and I have them going really far this season. All right, so do we need to do this next conference? Because we all know who's going to win. The SEC, we all know who wins that.
I'm going to disagree again. I'm giving it to Georgia.
No.
You cannot count out Georgia in this conference this year. They're returning a healthy portion of their team.
Can I say two things?
And Fromm as a freshman looked fantastic, completely calm under pressure. Yep, go ahead.
Nick Chubb. Sony Michel. Gone. That's a big chunk of your offense, those two running backs. I agree. Fromm looks really well.
What was the name of their third back, who was also really good, and he was like the top recruit as a freshman? They've also got the #1 recruiting class. You have to consider that. What was his name? DeAndre Swift. He looked good when he got a chance to go in. I think that I think it's gonna be plug and chug and go. I think they're gonna be just fine.
Okay.
They've also got the #1 recruit to back up from. He's a dual threat quarterback, so maybe he'll get in some slot action. Maybe they'll be able to run some trick plays with him because Fromm's more the traditional pocket passer compared to Justin Fields.
Well, this is funny because I imagine you and I have the same exact SEC championship game, but going the opposite direction. Because I have Georgia losing to Bama in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I think that this is Georgia's year.
I don't know. Look, I want
Georgia,
to have faith.
I think this is Clemson's year, but I have a lot of faith in Georgia too.
I want to have faith in this because it's Kirby Smart, and he took a really good team, and I think he has that ability to take to the next level. At the same time, it's Nick Saban. It's a big game. It's hard to pick against Nick Saban in Alabama, especially the fact now that they've got a sophomore quarterback in I'm just going to say Tua because I don't even try to pronounce his last name.
Viola.
Something long.
his brother almost came to Nebraska.
So you have someone that's really like you have a quarterback battle there, but I think I can't doubt Nick Saban anymore. I try, it just doesn't work. He keeps breaking my heart every season.
I see Georgia on the rise. I see them with really, really strong recruiting classes, and I can't really say this about Alabama, but you just never know at what point are they going to become too complacent. Because they've had a few down years where they let a few games go because they just assume that they're going to win.
Sure.
And I know that Saban's a great coach and he can usually get his teams to overcome that. But, I mean, I don't know, Georgia, I think they're going to be a real powerful team. Let's see. I don't trust anyone else in the SEC, though. It's a two-team league.
And that's another thing, too, is people need to understand.
I don't know. What about Kentucky, though? Dark horse, Kentucky.
People need to understand that this conference is a two-team league, and it's going to be that way for a couple of years. But again, I agree with you. I think Georgia and Alabama are interchangeable at this point. But I can't pick against Saban. It's just not in me to do that.
I understand.
So the ACC, I think, is a little bit more wide open than you do. But
I think that there's healthy competition. I think Miami's a good team for sure. Clemson has such a good defense, and I think they have 8 starters returning, including 6 of their front 7, and they've got two defensive linemen, like top 20 or something, recruits coming in this year, like the top 2 guys. I think their defense is just going to crush the rest of the ACC.
I have Miami upsetting Clemson and winning the ACC. I think this is the year that Mark.
I do like Miami.
I think this is the year that Mark Richt, gets over the hump that you can never do at Georgia, and he wins a championship. I think he did win an SEC title at Georgia, but that's beside the point. I think this is the year that Miami finally gets back to being the U again and having some swagger. That being said, I still think they do.
I feel like we've said that before on this show.
It's true, but
let's look through the archives.
But here's the thing: I think they're going to get back to that, but not quite yet. I think they're one more season off. I think they win the ACC. They upset Clemson, but then they kind of. I'll give this a spoiler away. They kind of screw the ACC out of the playoff. I think they end up 5th because I see them losing a game that they shouldn't lose, like they did last year with Pitt.
Yep.
I see them having a stumble at some point in the season to maybe not the best opponent, and that hurts them in the end of for the playoff rankings. But I think Miami wins this year, so now they have that mentality, and I think they're going to probably win it again. I'm going to go ahead and say they're going to probably win 2 years in a row. I'm just kidding. I can't commit to that. Clemson's too good to be like 2 years in a row Miami's winning.
Yeah, well, they're stacked with talent.
Yeah, and they got swagger back, which was important to that school. And the turnover chain, it gets mocked a lot now, but that was a big deal. And it's really changed the culture around there. I
thought the turnover chain was awesome.
No, I liked it too, but I just think it's funny.
Idea.
I think it's funny that teams make fun of it now. Like Wisconsin was just trolling their turnover chain so hard in that Orange Bowl. Did you watch that game?
Oh yeah, I saw it.
Where he was ripping it off.
you open yourself up for things like that to happen. But the thing is, it worked. Didn't they lead the country in turnovers?
Oh yeah. You want to talk about good defenses?
It's not like they just made it up and had no way to back it up. Like, it was completely substantiated. Well, it fits the U mentality. Like it fits in with Miami. So that's why it's like it would be weird if Nebraska had done that last year, because we were the last Power 5 team in turnovers.
Yeah,
one of the worst in all the conferences. I think we were in the bottom 10, and we did not have swagger.
Well, it's the same idea as the black shirts. It's a way to give pride to your defense and make your defensive players have tradition, and I think that's going to be there for a while. I will say though, back to Wisconsin, the funnest moments of bowl season was watching Wisconsin. First, the guy act like he's ripping off the turnover chain, and then you could read his lips, Wisconsin's head coach, at the end of the game. Then they got a turnover to seal the victory. He says it right, like you could read it perfectly. He goes, "Turnover chain my ass." And I was just like, bravo, Wisconsin. You've earned it.
Yeah. I still hate you, but.
Yeah. Lastly, so I have Miami. You have Clemson. Lastly, the Pac-12.
West Coast.
Derek, who do you got?
I got USC. Again.
Okay. I have Washington. So you're
partially
wrong.
Because I care the least about the Pac-12.
This is again, I made that joke about the ACC being wide open. The Pac-12 is legitimately wide open. Anybody could win that conference.
I mean, Washington's good, USC's good, but you're right. It's not like either of them stand out to you like a Clemson does, or like an Ohio State, or
like Bama,
Alabama. There's no big name that you really trust there. I mean, Stanford's there, and they're usually pretty solid, and they usually are good at bouncing back after they had a 9-5 season last year, and they've got most of their team coming back, so they've got some more juniors and seniors coming back, which is always helpful, especially on a team like Stanford. But still, there's nothing that you get super excited about. So I think it's going to come down to Washington, USC.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Again, it's just we had different outcomes. And I got to give credit to Chris Peterson, man. He's such a good coach, and he knows how to recruit. And what he's doing at Washington, I think is impressive, because you're not. It's not that you're playing in the same division as USC, but still you have to compete with a USC every year, and he finds ways to get good recruits.
Mm-hmm.
I have UW winning the Pac-12. All right. So how do we think the season is going to end? We're going to take the Final Four and the first two out. We're going to have those two teams, or those 6 teams, rather, and we're going to go through them. If you would like, Derek, I can give you all 6 of my teams.
Yep. Well, let's do the 2 you got out first.
All right.
And then I'll do the 2 I got out, and then we'll.
Well, I already mentioned it before with Miami, where I think that they're going to be a team that's going to have a great season, pull off the upset, beat Clemson, but they're going to hurt the ACC and keep them out of the playoffs. They are at number 5 for me. It's just I just don't trust them yet. I know that they're going to have maybe another 10-2 or 11-2 type run, but it's just that one game. And then number 6 is actually going to be Wisconsin. I have Wisconsin actually in the top 5 consistently throughout the year, like they were last year. Mm. I could honestly see them having the same exact season as last season, where they go undefeated and then they lose the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. So I had them at number 6.
And because they play in the East, their undefeated record just doesn't help them enough.
Well, yeah, the West is tainted.
Oh yeah, because they play in the West. Yeah. I was thinking about putting Wisconsin there too, but I think they're going to lose another game at some point this year, and Ohio State's going to take them. So I think at number 6, I'm going to put Oklahoma after their loss to Iowa State. You can see where I'm going with that one.
Oh, God. There's no way you have the Iowa State in the top 4.
And And at number 5, I'm going to put Alabama because I do not want another SEC national championship.
You think that I'm stuttering here. You think the Crimson Tide are somehow going to end up at 5th?
Yep.
And for the first time ever in the playoff era, not be in the playoffs?
It's got to happen sometime.
I don't know, man.
Happen sometime.
Bold strategy.
I think they're gonna drop a couple games this year.
Wow. Okay. I don't think that's true at all, but I would want that to happen.
A couple, including the SEC championship. I think they lose another game along the way, though.
Yeah.
Maybe an Iron Bowl game. Maybe they drop the ball at the end of the season.
And then it still doesn't matter. They still.
I'm not saying Auburn's great or anything, but I'm saying they're good enough to maybe find a way to beat Alabama. And then I think Georgia is gonna win the SEC championship. So I think that leaves Alabama out at number 5.
I know this show is running a little long, but I want to squeeze in something real quick. A little rant here. The playoff committee needs to make up their mind whether or not A, conference championships matter, or B, when the losses really matter. Because how does Alabama lose a game by 12 points and still get into the top 4? How does that happen?
Illusion. The Russians.
They hacked the playoff system.
They hacked the CFB servers.
Where are the emails? So, number 4 for me is the Pac-12 champion, Washington. I think Washington has a very good season. I do see them dropping a game, but still playing well enough that they work their way into the top 4.
And I'm going to agree with you, except for swap that out with USC.
Okay. So you think that USC is going to be just fine without Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I mean, that's quarterback university down there. They'll be fine. Got the nice weather.
Remember how everybody was worried about USC after Carson Palmer and then Matt Leinart shows up?
Well, yeah, every year they got a good quarterback down there. It might be the only thing they have, but they always have somebody. They always got somebody under center.
So number 3 for me is a team that Derek thinks is overrated. But number 3 is Oklahoma. I think they have a similar season that they did last year, even without Baker Mayfield. I think what Lincoln Riley has been able to do in the years that he's been at Oklahoma with that offense, and I understand that it's in the Big 12 that they don't play a lot of defense there, but you still can't take away the fact that they put up almost 40 points on Georgia, which is a very good defense. I got to go with Oklahoma at number 3.
All right, I'm going to go with Ohio State at number 3. I think they drop a game to a Michigan State, probably not a Michigan, maybe a Michigan along the way, maybe a Penn State, but they still make it to the Big Ten championship and went out and earned their way into the college football playoff.
Okay. I have Ohio State in mind as well, but I have Ohio State at number 2. I don't think Ohio State loses a game. I know that's a lot to say without JT Barrett, but it is true that Ohio State has found ways to lose games that they shouldn't, i.e. Iowa. What happened? Just screwed the Big Ten out of a championship. That's what you did.
I messed this up. I totally messed this up.
Where's Ohio State for you?
No, I somehow, when I was writing this down, I didn't write Georgia into my top 4. I'm going to bump these down. I'm bumping Ohio State down to 4. I'm getting rid of USC. I'm just blowing up this show right now.
I was very confident in my top 6. I want everyone to know.
Yeah, I didn't put as much time into this. I quickly wrote it down, and then I just realized that I did not put my SEC champions in there. Whoops.
All right.
So I put Ohio State 4. So my number 3 then is going to be Iowa State. It's going to go undefeated.
I swear to God, if that happens. Either this is going to make you into the smartest man alive or the dumbest man alive.
Dumbest for sure.
And my number 1 is Alabama.
Yep. So I got Okay, I guess I'll go through. I got Georgia at my number 2, and then Clemson at my number 1. So wait, do you not have Clemson in your top 6?
No, I do not.
So you're leaving the ACC completely out then?
Yeah.
Oh, you had Miami at 5.
I had Miami at 5th. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That was my justification. It was like I can't put the loser above the winner.
Sorry I messed that segment up so bad there at the end.
So that was it.
I was like, wait a minute.
Hey man,
I'm missing something here.
We got 2 years worth of football rust. We got to shake off.
Yeah,
we can't.
Rusty today. Been talking politics and religion.
Exactly. We had like things that we've actually had to think about, and stuff like this where we feel like we can just wing it no matter what. We can't do it. All right, so let's move on from college football. Let's talk about the NFL. And I promise you it won't get political. We are sticking to football. We're not doing anything. I don't want to go like 20 minutes talking about kneeling.
I know. I'm done. I'm so done with that.
Yeah, me too. All right, so
done with it.
NFL. First off, I want to say before we get to the picks, the Super Bowl picks, I'm already going to tell you right now, I think Philadelphia is going to repeat. If not repeat, at the very least, they will be in Super Bowl 53. But I have not figured out the AFC team yet.
Hey, that's a joke, right?
That I think Philly's going all the way?
No, that you haven't figured out the AFC team.
Well, it's either the Patriots or the Steelers. It's one of those.
That's the easy one. Steelers can't beat the Patriots in the playoffs.
All right, so what do we want to talk about with the NFL?
Well, I guess first I just want to go over just a quick rundown of the two conferences. I just think it's crazy how different there's a huge gap between the NFC and the AFC as a whole. I mean, I think there's probably 6 to 8 teams that you could argue definitely should make the playoffs, and not that many 6 teams get in. But in the NFC and the AFC, it's like you got the Patriots above everybody. You got, the Steelers, which are great during the season, but they can't beat the Patriots, so they don't really count. And then you got a whole bunch of crap. Okay, I'll give the Jaguars some credit. I'll give Houston some credit for if Deshaun Watson can stay healthy and continue getting better. I think he showed a lot of promise last year, and I'm excited to see what he does. And I think the Chargers always have potential, but they literally always just have potential, and then they do nothing with it. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because then you go to the NFC. I like the Vikings and the Packers. I like the Cowboys, the Eagles. I think the Giants are going to have a good bounce back year. I think the Tampa Bay is full of talent if they can just figure out their quarterback situation. Carolina's talented. Atlanta's still talented. New Orleans is still good. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and the way they ended in San Francisco. Now, I think that's a little inflated. His 5 wins at the end of the season because he was playing some not good teams and he was playing some teams that weren't really focused on beating them. So, but he did look really good, and I'm excited to see what happens there. And the Rams, I think that offense last year, wow.
Back to Jimmy G. Did you see that he went on a date with a porn star?
Yeah.
And people are making a big deal about that. I'm like, who cares?
Let Jimmy be Jimmy.
Jimmy G.
Jimmy.
And the G doesn't stand for Garoppolo.
Jimmy G string.
Yeah, you know it. I do agree. I think the NFC, if you're a fan of that conference, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. If we were going by like just divisions, it's a little bit harder than you think. I think there's 2 teams that without a doubt I think are going to win their divisions, and I think the Rams are going to take the West, and I think the Packers are going to win the North because Aaron Rodgers is going to be healthy, and I don't know how well Kirk Cousins is going to play at Minnesota.
Why do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be healthy?
I would hope. He doesn't. He needs a better.
I'm just saying. I don't think you can just outright say that a player is going to be healthy. If he's healthy, I think the Packers are in the Super Bowl.
I think it's a good chance he's not going to get hurt.
That's a big if,
in training camp because he's so protected. I doubt you can't even look at number 12.
Well, yeah, sure, in practice, but during the season,
yeah,
his play style does lend him to get injured.
Well, it's because his offensive line is trash, and he has to improvise a lot. But yeah, I think in my mind, there's two teams that I think are going to absolutely win a division, and that's the Rams and the Packers. That I think are defend. Well, three teams because I think the Patriots are always going to win the East.
Well, yeah, the Patriots. Definitely.
It's almost like you can't even count that division. You just call it.
Don't you just feel bad for the Bills, Dolphins, Jets?
It's New England. It's not even the AFC East. It's the AFC Patriots.
This is coming from a Browns fan. I feel bad for those teams, even though I haven't won in 2 years. I still feel, and even though the Steelers, I think, are probably going to win the North. Somehow, I just still feel like there's a chance. If I was a Jets fan, I just have no hope. No hope. Not until Tom Brady's gone.
No. Yeah. I do think the Giants will have a good season, but I think the Eagles are good. I said that. I meant it, man. I think they have a legit chance at repeating. They're a young team, and they made a lot of moves in the offseason. I think they got Michael.
I think Carson Wentz is definitely the real deal. I think he proved it last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy.
He needs to stay
in the NFL, but
especially quarterbacks. And I think his play style needs to change a little bit more. He's a big guy. I get that, but he literally got hurt by running.
Yeah.
He hurt himself by running it.
And you hope that he learned something from that, right?
Yeah, and I hope he stays in the pocket and trusts his offensive line more because I think he is one of the better young quarterbacks. And I think
he's a great passer, and so he doesn't need to rely on his legs, is what I'm saying. Like someone like Cam Newton, who's a good passer, like don't get me wrong, he needs to rely on his legs sometimes to open up the field. Right. Whereas Carson Wentz, I think he can run. I don't think he needs to. More like an Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers can run, but he's got the arm. I mean, the throws that he makes are absolutely ridiculous.
He's the king of Hail Marys.
Yeah. Well, and that run into the sideline, like falling out of bounds, throw it 35 yards down the field perfectly. Like it's something to watch for sure. Who's your MVP? You're way too early MVP.
Before I get to that, I'm gonna stall and say that another team that I think is going to be a dark horse this year. I agree with you. The Texans. If Deshaun Watson slides more,
I love the way you say his name.
Deshaun Watson.
Like when you're just saying it naturally, you say Deshaun Watson. I love it.
Whatever.
Rand Watson.
I understand that he hurt himself in practice, but I think that he could lead the Texans to winning the AFC South. Although the Jaguars have been playing well, I don't know. My MVP.
You can just never trust Blake Bortles.
No, you can't. My MVP, I'm gonna go with.
And you're not allowed to pick Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
more interesting.
I'm gonna go with the more lame pick. No, wait, no. I'm gonna scratch that. I was gonna say Aaron Rodgers, but I'm gonna scratch that. I'm gonna say Todd Gurley. I think Todd Gurley takes it this year.
You think so, huh?
Yeah. I mean, he's had consistently really good
seasons.
He's
so good.
Even with bad Rams teams.
It's a quarterback league, man.
I get that, but he was like people legitimately had him in the conversation last year.
I know, yeah, and I think that he should have won it last year, honestly.
So yeah, I have Todd Gurley.
I'm gonna give it to God. I keep going back and forth on this one. I'm gonna give it to Carson Wentz. I think that if he would have been healthy throughout the whole season last year, I think he would have had a hell of a shot at getting it.
Yeah, and I think he probably would have had the performance Nick Foles had.
I think he's going to have a spectacular regular season.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a solid pick.
It's always, in my mind, it's always like Tom Brady's award to lose if he just doesn't feel like it. Or, if there's the MVP fatigue like LeBron gets.
Well, it's always
like there's less of that in the NFL, though, than there is in the NBA. Because legitimately, LeBron should win every single year.
Well, I
like
think,
if you look at NBA players, there's like LeBron, like he is the top tier, and then there's a tier right after that that's like KD, Steph, maybe Harden and Russ, like right there.
guy,
Kawhi if he can stay healthy, and then there's like another tier after that.
Whether people like it or not, he's probably going to take 3 teams to the finals because he's probably going to take the Lakers to the finals eventually.
It's gonna be tough. Well, yeah. We'll definitely do a basketball show once football season's over.
I agree. I think Carson Wentz is a solid pick too. I think if he plays his card right, he'll be in that group because you talk about it's Tom Brady every year. I feel like it's Rodgers, Brady, Breeze. Those 3 are always in talks for the MVP because it's consistently them. They have had the most longevity, especially Drew Brees. He's been there forever.
Yeah. Let's not forget Roethlisberger too.
Yeah, he's been there quite a while.
But he's got Antonio Brown to throw too.
Yeah, but yeah, let's talk about this real quick. Audible here, wink. You want to talk about Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, sure.
The fact that Pittsburgh is just going to give up on this guy and let him go because they won't sign a deal with him. He said.
Well, so they did the franchise tag today, or whatever, or Monday, or sometime this week, right? They franchise tagged him. So after this season, so he'll get paid some ridiculous amount, like $14 million this year, and then he becomes an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. But they did both come out and say that they wanted to sign a long-term deal next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, his agent said that he wants to retire as Steeler, but before this stuff came out, he'd said
it's a smart thing to say.
That's not going to be the case. Like they were kind of sassy about it, but
yeah, we'll see. Here's the thing though about running backs is that their shelf life is just so much shorter than any other position, and he's only I think 26 right now, so he's still young, and he's gonna be 27 next year, but running backs usually tend to fall off a cliff once they hit 30. Yeah. So it's only 3 more years after this season. Is it worth it for the Steelers, especially, Ben doesn't have much time left? Or would it be smarter for them to save some money and go try to find a young running? Because there's good running backs coming out every single year college football. So maybe they're just trying to do it year by year for as long as they can with him, and then they're going to try to find the next thing after. There's always going to be a next thing. Right. And running backs, but he is great. That. I mean, he's got the most. What is it? The most yards from scrimmage, per game in his first 5 years of any running back in the history of the NFL, which is incredible. A big part of that is that he's a great receiver as well as runner. But he plays physical. He gets hit a lot. He's probably only got a couple like really, really good years left, and then he'll be solid, and then he'll fall off pretty hard. So we'll see. I think it'll all depend on how well he does. If he's got a great year this year, if he improves from last year, which was a slight downtick from the year before, then I could see them trying to sign a deal with him. But they might just let him go after this year.
Yeah, I mean. I can see both ways, and I totally agree with you where it's kind of a rough situation because running backs, they're very limited. You can get a really good guy, but at a certain point, those hits rack up, and
they're so injury prone.
Oh yeah,
and so that's why I think the Steelers are thinking, oh, we got Ben for probably another year. We got Antonio Brown. We still got a pretty solid defense. Let's just spend the money on him now, see what happens. Because imagine he has some devastating injury this year. From the Steelers' perspective, they're like, man, we just lucked out because now we don't have him on contract for 6 years. So I think that's kind of their thinking, is that running backs a short-term position to do short-term contracts, which I totally get. Plus, I mean, if you look at the way like Zeke Elliott, came out and Leonard Fournette and Todd Gurley and how. And very young in their careers, they're very, very productive running backs. So maybe they're just thinking, maybe we can just keep drafting, finding really good young running backs every year, focus on that, and save money and have short-term contracts with them. So that's kind of my thinking of their thought, because otherwise, if they weren't thinking that way, they should have made a deal with him. Like, it's
Right.
ridiculous that you wouldn't if you weren't thinking that kind of short-term contract idea.
And there's really, and like we were talking, it's very reasonable because, like we said, I think you hit it right on the head. Short-term contracts because they're short-term backs. Wink. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. No, I totally thought about it. In my head, I was like, should I say short-term backs to sound funny? But now that I'm explaining it, it's clearly not funny.
You ruined it. You ruined it.
Exactly.
It came out so natural, and then you just destroyed it. It's okay. It's rusty, right?
We're recording, so I can just cut all that out.
No, you got to leave that in.
So
because I had my big goof earlier, so now you get to goof.
So let's be honest. Do we both agree? You might be different here, but I think Super Bowl 53 is going to be boring to a lot of people. I think it's going to be a rematch of the Eagles and the Patriots.
We do not agree with that. Here's the thing. I have so much trouble because it really just depends on injuries. But if everybody's healthy, I think it's to be Packers, Patriots. I'm going to go with a very generic what everybody picks every offseason since Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady have been in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia's going to have a great regular season. I just think as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy and that team's chugging along, I think his experience in those games is going to help him in a big win over Philly.
Well, I mean, we saw it last year.
I can see Tampa Bay too. I know we say this all the time, and I know you're a Tampa Bay fan, but it's that team is so talented. If they could just get their quarterback situated, which I know is the most important position in all of sports, but.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I've been saying that for the last few years when they went 9-7, when they went on that 5-win streak. You started to see the defense click. They've got a solid defense. Quan Alexander is a great young outside linebacker. Levante David is a very solid linebacker. Gerald McCoy still kicking ass. I mean, at his age, it's unbelievable how dominant he can still be. They just got JPP. Noah Spence. I mean, this is a solid defense. And then you flip that to the offense. Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, if they could use him right.
Yeah.
If they could use him properly, which they didn't do at all last year.
Yeah.
Why he wasn't a slot receiver to every package is beyond me because he's so friggin' fast.
So
you know
fast.
What I mean? But yeah, they have so many weapons. They just got to figure it out. And I don't want to say it's all Jameis Winston's fault, but it absolutely is all Jameis Winston's fault. Okay. He's a scumbag, and I've written on our website.
They were fourth in passing last year.
I'm not doubting his abilities, but he throws a lot of interceptions. He plays a lot like the gunslinger Brett Favre mentality. And it's this team.
And every few years, Brett Favre.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of him playing. I mean, personally, just on my personality, I would have gotten rid of as soon as this came. Like we heard anything about the suspension. I mean, there's still an investigation, whatever the case may be. I would just be like, look, if you're guilty, you're off this team. And I'd like to think Tampa would do that, but. To me, it's got to be Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it really terrifies me to put faith in Fitzy because, I mean, he couldn't even get a starting job at the Jets, and they're awful. So it worries me. Do I think? And I've said it for 3 years in a row now, but I stand by it. If they can get their quarterback figured out, Tampa is a legit 5th or 6th seed. I think they're a legit wild card. I
agree, if not better. Sorry, I just really wanted you to go off on that tangent. I gotta ask. So
let's have them go off for a while.
Besides Tampa, what team are you most excited to see what they do this year? Like, not who you think's gonna be best, like just the team that like you're really excited to see how things go for them. Obviously, besides Tampa.
Yeah. It's tough. I'm actually excited to watch the Rams play.
Yeah, I was thinking about them too. They're definitely up there.
The LA Rams, I think what's appealing about them to me is this is a situation where I feel like they have so much talent and they're so good. And yes, they made the playoffs last year, but they still have this like chip on the shoulder underdog mentality because nobody wanted a team in LA again. Nobody wants to see that kind of thing. And so they have this weird pull themselves up by the bootstraps mentality. I mean,
and Sean McVay being such a young coach,
I really like Sean McVay.
One of those great experiments where a lot of people are like, "Hey, he's probably too young, probably doesn't have enough experience." But yeah, I think he's done a great job so far. And I was probably going to pick the Rams, but I'll go ahead and go with a different team. Just we have someone else to talk about. I'm really excited for the 49ers this season because I'm excited for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm excited for an organization that was so high just a few years ago and then just plummeted into the ground. It was terrible. And then my boy Colin Kaepernick, and he's my boy because I watched him in college when I was in high school down in Reno. He was like the savior of Wolfpack football. Great, and then just plummets, does terrible. Had actually a pretty decent season the last time he played, but then just like completely plagued his career. And I'm not picking one side or the other of this political issue, but it just feels like the 49ers organization was hurt so much by the whole thing. And it feels like this is a fresh start. And Jimmy G-String, I think, has got a really good chance to be the next, succeed Tom Brady, his former mentor.
I hope you know that's sticking all season, by the way.
Huh?
His name is Jimmy G-String till the end of time.
We're gonna get shirts.
Oh my gosh, that would be the first batch of Loud and Opinionated merch is Jimmy G-String.
Hey, this is the Audible presented by Loud and Opinionated. Keep it separate.
Oh, even though they are the same thing, they're separate.
Jimmy G-String. This is our sports entity. Just like ESPN is ABC, but it says ESPN on it.
It's like 20th Century Fox, Fox News. They're different.
Yeah, totally.
I think both those West Coast teams are exciting to watch. I don't know do you think the Niners are going to make it to the playoffs?
I think this is a really like who are you year where I think it's too hard to predict right now. I could see it going either way, and that's why I'm excited to watch. If I had to predict, I'd say that they're going to be right outside the playoffs this year. I don't know if it's going to be fantastic, but I think Garoppolo is going to have a good year. At least I hope he does, because I just want to see the turnaround start so that in the next few years they can try to build something, really good.
Right. Yeah, and my big thing is I really like Sean McVay. I'm glad that a young coach worked out so well, and I love his style. He seems like a fun guy to play for. So, yeah, that team looks really exciting. Okay, so that is enough football talk on Loud and Opinionated. Prime. We'll call it Loud and Opinionated Prime, the main show. We will continue, like we said, with the football season. We had to skip the Nebraska segment for time. But don't worry, Nebraska fans, we will talk about them because we bleed scarlet and cream. We love our Huskers. We will talk about them. But this has been another episode of Loud and Opinionated. You can listen to the show on loudandopinionated.com. We're also on iTunes. We're also on SoundCloud, anywhere you get podcasts. But you should go to the website because Derek designed it. It's beautiful. I wrote some articles. He wrote some articles. Even one of our listeners wrote an article. And how do they do that, Derek?
Well, hey, if you've got an opinionated Jesus.
You've got an opinion.
If you've got an opinion and you want it to be heard, we're here to help you. Go ahead and send your opinion in blog format, at least 300 words. I like to get it closer to 1,000. Over to Derek at loudandopinionated.com. It's DEREK. You can find that on our website, loudandopinionated.com. Include at least one image, a couple, 2 or 3 is probably better, and links to those images so we can give them credit. And then your name, and then if you want your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever you have, whatever you want in there to give you credit, go ahead and give that to me, and we'll go ahead and get it posted. I'll probably just check it for grammar and editing, but we're not here to shut down your opinions. We're here to share it with the world, no matter what you think, even if you're totally wrong.
Left, right, Marvel, DC, Pepsi, Coke, we don't care. We will put your opinion on the show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have a great day.
Jimmy G. String.